Hi there. Welcome to 90% Knitting. This is episode 320. I am Lisa, also known as Fiber Nymph, and today's Monday. Again, another Monday. How about that? Today is the 26th of August, and I don't know what time it is. Oh, wow, really? Is it 20 to 11? How did it get to be that late? I thought it was earlier than that. Oh, well. I've been up early. I woke up at 2:30 last night, got up, used the bathroom, came back to bed, and then laid there. Like, I could not go back to sleep for anything. So I'm a little sleep deprived today. I didn't go back to bed later on and take a nap. I probably should have because I got really tired around 8 o'clock. But nope, I forged ahead and I thought, oh, well, maybe I should podcast instead because that's always good to do when I haven't had enough sleep. But I am going to podcast today because today's Monday and I've been recording on Mondays. So we're going to go with that. Okay, so I have no finished objects to show, but I do have a good bit of work on one specific project to share with you, as well as some little mini projects I've been working on. And I have some spinning to talk about. And that's probably all I'm going to have to physically show you. I have some on deck things we'll talk about. And then we have the Cal stuff. And I do have things to talk about there and some upcoming events and a little bit of 10% and a little bit of shop news. This may actually be a fairly reasonably lengthed podcast. We can hope. Then I don't have to just go in and ruthlessly cut out sections of the podcast that I recorded. I do that occasionally. Like if it gets really, really long and then I'm processing it, I think, oh my gosh, I've got to cut this down. So then I'll just chop a big chunk of something out that I went babbling about that didn't seem pertinent after the fact. And then I always worry that, oh, like I may have like referred to that at some other point and then you'll be like, what are you talking about? Although you're probably thinking that fairly regularly anyway. Like, Lisa, what are you talking about? Like last week when I kept referring to Susan B. Anderson as Susan B. Anthony. Oh my goodness. Like, I knew I did it the first time. Like, after I said it, I think I knew I said it. But then I was looking it up to verify, that the pattern was by her. And it's like, yes. I was reading it off the screen, and I still said Susan B. Anthony a second time. Susan B. Anthony, as I said, whenever I wrote the show notes and put in my little disclaimer in the video, like, she may have been a knitter, but she is not the one who designed the curly snake. That was Susan B. Anderson. All right. So we've got that straightened. And then who else's name did I get wrong? Oh, I said that Beguiled Knitworks was Jennifer Steingast. It's not. It's Caitlin Hunter. Was totally off my game. Even with show notes, off my game with names last week. But that's okay. We're going to try to do better this week. So, let's get started. The first thing, and pretty much the thing that I've spent the most time working on this week, is my Soldotna Crop by Beguiled Knitworks, who is Caitlin Hunter. Okay, so last week when you saw this, I'm going to show this to you in stages. What you saw pretty much looked like this. Do you see an issue here today? Yeah, things have changed. So I showed this to you and I was talking about the fact that I wasn't 100% sure that I was getting enough contrast between this variegated, winey kind of color and my first contrast color, which is this little cream color. So it was this color and this color. All right. I wasn't getting the contrast that I wanted, but I said, well, maybe as it goes on, maybe you'll be able to see it better. Also because this color, you only did kind of at the very top, and then it goes into this color, and then it goes into using, oh boy, this is a hot mess there. This color with this color, and then this color with my fourth color, which was a silver gray. Well, the only problem was I was giving this a chance, like benefit of the doubt that it would work. But then I got to the point where these two colors were going to be together And what I failed to notice, I don't know why I say notice, I'm the one who dyed the yarn for goodness sake, but what I failed to pay attention to is there's also green in here. It's a very different green than any of these greens, but there is green in here. And when those two came together, these were also getting mushy, and I thought, I can't do that. Like, this whole thing is just going to look like one big mushy thing without any motifs by the time I'm done with it. So I thought about it, and I thought, you know, part of the problem is I love these colors, right? I loved all four of those colors that I was using, but in my mind's eye, what I was seeing when I looked at this skein of yarn, I was seeing this deep, winey purple, almost the color of my shirt. Like, that's what I was seeing, was this color. And I was just having selective vision about it. I wasn't paying attention to the lighter areas or the greener areas. I saw that Merlot-y kind of color. Same with this. I mean, this is much more tonal than the other one, but it's still got a lot of variation in there. Darker greens, darker blue greens, and then it had lighter areas, right? But my eye was seeing those really deep, bold greens and blues in there. That's what I was seeing. But that's not what was coming out as it was being knit. So what I decided to do was re-dye yarn specifically for this project that would be the colors that I was seeing and not the lighter versions. And so that's what I did. I dyed up this version of the wine color, and this is just, I actually had to play with it because I did one set and I didn't like it. It was almost more red than purple, because there is red in that other one too. But I was seeing more of an earthy red than the purple, and I wanted the purple to be predominant, this wine-colored Merlot. That's looking a little redder on camera than it really is. It actually really is very close to the color of my shirt in real life. I'm not just making that up. Well, this light is going to bring out the red in it. At any rate, I was much, much happier with this the third time around when I dyed it. Perfect. And same with this. I did it in a much more deep tonal, kind of variegated version without as many light areas. I'm sorry, the sun is kind of crossing in here, which is not at all helping the color issues. So, all right. And I left the other colors the same. I started over, and I did not feel bad about starting over because I really, really wanted this to look the way I wanted it to look, the way I was seeing it in my mind. That's how I wanted it to actually really look to other people who cannot see my mind. So here we go. I'm so much happier with it this way. I mean, it's very crisp and distinct. The motifs, you can see them beautifully, and it's perfect. This is what I wanted. Now, this is the entire yoke finished. I had about 8 hours of car knitting time on Saturday because my husband and I had to drive out to Columbus and back to pick something up that he purchased on eBay? Craigslist? I don't know. Maybe eBay, I think. And we had to go pick it up. So I went along and I knit all day. It was fabulous. I was in this area when we left, like in these spooky things. And I did all the rest of this in the car that day. I was so happy. So I am to the point where it is now, the sleeve stitches are off the needles. They're on holders. And I'm ready to start working the body. Now, the main color of the body will be this sand color. And then the little motifs will be the green and the silver. And then you end up doing this Merlot-y color again at the bottom of the band. I want this to be done in time for the New Jersey Sheep and Fiber Festival at the first weekend in September. So depending on how long it takes me, I mean, this flew. I mean, despite the fact that I did spend 8 hours dedicated knitting time, and yes, my hands did kind of hurt, and yes, I did take some breaks in there, but I mean, it's going pretty quickly. I mean, it's a DK weight, so it's going to knit up fast. But I'm going to reserve judgment on what I'm going to do with the sleeves until I see how much time I have left. If I'm short on time, I may just go ahead and put the ribbing on and call it done for now. And then once the show's over, if I want to lengthen the sleeves, I will, because that wouldn't be hard to do. But we'll see. But I'm very happy with how it is. I'll try to remember to put a picture in here somewhere. Maybe I will have already done that, of me with this trying it on whenever I put it on the longer needles and took the sleeve stitches off. I will tell you, having done this first one, let's see, let me pull my little, I didn't bother ripping this out because I wasn't reusing any of the yarn except for the silver, and I only had, I think I just bumped the camera, sorry. I think I only had like 1 or 2 rounds of the silver knit in, so I did unwind that to recoup that. But this I'm not going to bother with just because I'm not using this and it's all chopped up anyway. I was able to try this on, such as it was when I took the needles out of it, and that was actually very helpful, because I realized that this collar band, this neck band, was super tight. It was like really, it's a crew neck to begin with, but it was like way up here on my neck and tighter than would have been comfortable. So I was glad that I learned that, because then I was able to modify this the second time. And the modification I made was, you're supposed to do the neckband, and then you do the short row section, and then after the short row section, for certain sizes, there's an increase round. What I did was I cast on with the number of stitches that I was supposed to end with after the increase round. I started with that number of stitches, which gave me about, I think, an extra 2 inches in the neck. And then when I worked my short rows, I just modified the number of stitches I was going left and right of the beginning around to do the short rows, so that worked out. And it did. It worked out fine. When it's laying flat, it kind of looks a little wonky because, I don't know, of the shaping. And maybe it would do that anyway. I'm not sure. But when it's on, it looks fine. So I'm glad I was able to know to do that. And starting over was able to do that. And the other thing I realized was, so I cast on using threes, I think, for my ribbing on the first version. I went up to 4s on the second version, also to give it a little bit more give in the neck. And in trying this on, I have realized I do like where this new neckline fits better, where it sits, it's better. So I had used 3s, and then I'd gone up to 5s for the stockinette area and the short rows, and then when I got to the color work, I was using 6s because I was trying to avoid puckering that I get with color work sometimes. I hadn't swatched for this at all, so I basically used this as a swatch and measured what gauge I was getting. And I was getting a nice gauge on 5s. When I got to the 6s for the color work, it was starting to get a little too loose. So when I did this version, I used 4s for the collar, and then when I got to the stockinette, I just went up to 5s, and I stayed at 5s for the color work, and it's fine. I don't feel like it's overly puckery. I was very, very mindful of my tension. And I got into a very nice rhythm. You know, if you do this for 8 hours straight, you tend to get into a nice rhythm with your color work. So I'm a two-handed color worker. I can't do it all with one hand. I do my contrasting color that I want to have yarn dominant, to be the dominant color. I do that in my left hand, continental. And then I do my other color, the background color, with my right hand. I don't do it like the wrap and flicky thing. I wrap it, but I pick it up and wrap it around. It works best for me. And like I said, I was able to start going pretty quickly. And then I just remember to, like, every 6 to 10 stitches, I take my stitches that I've just knit and I kind of pull them apart just to make sure that nothing's super tight. And again, got into a good rhythm. So here I am. I'm very happy with this. I can't wait to see what it's going to look like. Now, the body is going to mostly be this lighter color. That's what you're going to see. in a way, I kind of almost wish I would have used this Merlot as that color so that it would have been a darker version, but I think I'm going to be happy with it this way. We'll see. I may end up making a second one, a non-sparkly second one, and I might do that in darker colors, but I'm going to get this one finished first. So that is my Soldotna. The yarn that I'm using is my Beguiled base, fibernymphdyeworks Beguiled, which is a sparkly DK weight base. I love it. I think it's very pretty. I think it's going to make a nice sort of dressy but not super Christmassy looking holiday kind of top. And as I mentioned to you last week, I'm hoping to sew some tunics that I can wear underneath it. I'm very happy with how this is coming along. So, yay! This may be the year of the garment for me, the year of the sweater. I've already finished 3 sweaters this year. This will be number 4. I really want to do my weekender this year. And I have sort of plans in my brain to crochet a sweater too. Like a wing it kind of thing. Not like, oh, I'm going to follow a pattern because I don't know how to read crochet patterns. But yeah, stay tuned for that one. The other thing that I've been working on is part of a long-term project that I'm undertaking that will be a part of my, mostly it'll be for my show display whenever I'm vending. The interesting thing about when I vend, now obviously I mainly do self-striping. That's my central thing. And online, my self-striping has always been what has sold the best. That and my gradient yarns, right? So gradients do sell well at shows because people can see what they look like. They can see the gradient nature. That's fine. But interestingly, unless somebody already knows about my self-striping yarns and what they look like, they don't often tend to be the best sellers for me. My variegated stuff sells well. Fiber sometimes sells well, sometimes doesn't. Semi-solids sell fine at shows, but it's just so interesting to me that a lot of shows, I mean, I always sell some self-striping, and inversibles usually sell pretty well, but like I bring lots and lots and lots of different self-striping colorways to shows, and I don't know if it's just too many choices and people get overwhelmed, or like they can't look at the sample socks that I have there, because I always have, you know, at least a half dozen sample socks knit up and hanging there to demonstrate what the yarns knit up like. And I always have those colorways there. But I figure people can extrapolate from, okay, this is what a self-striping sock looks like, so this is what this yarn does, just in these different colors. But I don't know that that's always the case. So what I decided, because things always sell better when you have samples, is I would like to have samples of every single colorway I have that I take to shows. And that obviously varies from show to show as well, which means I just need to have a small sample of every colorway so that I can pull from my samples and have them out alongside the yarn that's for sale. But that's a lot of colorways. I have hundreds of self-striping colorways. I've been doing this for over 8 years. And obviously I do not take all of my colorways to shows. I don't even dye all of my colorways anymore. In fact, I have retired several of my older colorways and colorways that didn't do as well. I'm trying to be a little bit more mindful about my collection at this point. For a lot of reasons, but just logistics too. So anyway, I decided that I was going to start knitting these samples. And some of them I do anyway. Like this. I mean, this is a sample I knit up when I originally came out with the I Feel Lucky speckled stripe. Because I can't do a graphic well in, like, Photoshop is what I use whenever I do the graphics that I put up in my shop listings that show how the colorway is going to stripe up. If it's just a semi-solid stripe, that's easy to do on the computer. But if it's something speckled with a whole bunch of different speckly greens like that, I can't really do that on the computer, not well, okay? Or if it's a, let's see, do I have, yeah. Or if it's a colorway like this. So this is Pumpkin Spice Swirl. So it's got two semi-solid stripes, but this is a swirl stripe. It's a variegated stripe. I can't show that using my computer program. I just can't recreate it that way graphically. So I knit up a little sample when I have colorways like that. And that's fine, but what I realized was I could do those kind of samples for all of the colorways I take with me to my shows, and I could have the sample hanging there, and then I could have the yarn. And it's like, here's the yarn, this is what it looks like. Now, that will probably mean that I'll take fewer colorways with me to shows over time, but I have a hunch that this will actually help things sell better because people will actually be able to see what the striping pattern is for each individual colorway that I have there. I just think that's probably a no-brainer. And it's one of those things that I think, really, has it really taken me 8 years to figure this out? But again, everything's a process. So this is what I've been working on aside from my sweaters. I've been knitting little sock swatches, basically, sock yarn swatches. And I have recruited helpers because I'm not crazy. I did put a call out on Instagram a couple weeks ago asking for people who would be willing to knit these little 4 to 5 inch long swatches of striping patterns. They get to keep the whole rest of the skein. You know, that's their payment, and I sent them like a little extra mini that would go with it. So they basically were getting a full skein of yarn, and I sent them an envelope that they could use with stamps on it that already would send, you know, have postage on it to send the thing back. Easy peasy, and I got blown away by the number of people who replied to that. So I'm saying that, number one, because I appreciate so much everybody who offered to help, and number two, to let you know I'm not looking for anybody else to help me with this right now. I've got a backlog of people willing, and I don't have enough yarn to send everybody right now. So if I do need any more help in the future, I will put another call out on Instagram because that seems to be the easiest way for me to do this and keep track of people. So please don't message me or leave a comment that you want to help because I won't be able to get back to you, and I don't want you to think I'm ignoring you. But right now I have plenty of people helping me. So anyway, I've been getting these in the mail, and it's so much fun. Oh my gosh. So I'm going to show you some of the ones that I've gotten back. I'm not going to tell you who knit them because I didn't ask if it was okay to say them, and honestly, looking at them, I don't remember who did all of them anyway. Some of them I remember, but I'll get things confused, and it would just be easier if I didn't misattribute one sample to somebody who didn't do it. So here's one. This is called Shabby Chic. This was a show colorway that I came up with this year for this year's show season. Show specials are colorways that I've never had in my shop, and I dye them up and I have them in the shows. Eventually they usually go in the shop, but this one has not been in the shop yet. So this is Shabby Chic. This one is Mountain House Autumn, which you've seen a million times, but now I have a nice little sample of it. This one is Into the Deep. And the other fun thing is I'm having them knit up on different yarn bases, so there will be a nice representation. So like this one was on Mountain Tweed. So this one is If It Isn't Baroque. That was another show special colorway this year. This one's Storm Warning. And this is Down at the Pub. It's funny, I've got a lot of the tweed ones back. And then some that I've knit for myself. This one is Just Pink, which is not just... You know what? I honestly can't remember if this is what I called this colorway or not. I haven't dyed it up in a couple of years. I honestly don't remember. I have to look up what the name of it was that I called it. But anyway, this is on Bedazzled, so I did that one. This is Chambray. This is Hypothesis, which is also on Bedazzled. This is That's Not Even a Word, which was my Scrabble colorway that I came out with a few years ago. And this is Awakening. Now you can see these kind of vary in length. I was asking people to do them between 4 and 5 inches long. This one's actually a little longer than 5 inches, but I did it that long because of the striping pattern. But it's fine. they're not all going to be identical. They just need to fit on my little blockers that I'm making blockers specifically. They won't look like feet or like socks, but they'll just be straight for these. Oh, and then I also have this one, which I showed you, Pumpkin Spice Swirl. This is Halloween Spookles, which I will be having in the shop soon because I'm starting to dye up my Halloween colorways. And this is Signs of the Season, which was my pigskin party colorway from last year. So these speckly ones, these are ones I just have on hand because I've used them, but they're not ones that I have in the shop right now because they're all very seasonal. So I won't show those to you. But anyway, I've got a whole bag of leftovers from socks that I've made and just partial skeins. I didn't send those out to people. I was sending other people full skeins that they could keep the extras. So I've got my own little project bag full of striping bits that I'm doing my knitting, and it's fun. It's fun to just knit these little things because I can knit one of those up in about an hour and a half tops, you know. And it's just a nice little variety, and it will be very helpful in my shows. So that's been the only other thing that I've knit on this week. Okay, I don't really even know where I was. I had to put the recording on pause because my phone rang and it was a call I needed to take. And now here I am probably a half hour later. The light has changed, and I think I was telling you about the swatches that I'd been knitting. So I think I was finished talking about those. So we're going to move on. Spinning. I have done some spinning. In fact, I finished the second part of my Fiber Exchange and Spinalong fiber. So this is the half that the one single is the half of the fiber that I sent to my partner, which was, excuse me, a Merino bamboo. And this is the half that I did of hers. And I applied both of them together with this brighter blue, which is also a Merino bamboo. Hers was a Merino bamboo silk, the fiber she sent me. So they were all very similar. Now what was interesting to me, because we each sent each other 2 ounces of fiber, and then I was plying it with essentially 2 ounces of this other fiber, you know, each half. I ended up with over 700 yards of plied fiber or plied singles. So a 2-ply, gosh, words, from the fiber that Trisha sent me. Mine, I only got like 570 something. Did I write it down in my notes? 582 yards. So that was like about 140 yards less than I got of this. And I thought I had spun all of the singles pretty much the same, and they weigh the same. Like the 2 skeins weigh almost identical. So it's not that there was less fiber in one than another. I guess I spun mine up less fine, the singles, than I did hers. Hers had silk in it, so that would have made it want to spin more finely. That's the only thing I can come up with. At first I thought maybe I just miscounted when I was counting the wraps on my Nitty Naughty, because that's how I figure out my yardage, like my pre-soaked yardage anyway. So I went back and I opened this up and I recounted the strands, and it was correct. So the yardage estimates are correct. There's like 700 and some yards in this, 720-ish, and 582 in this. So, okay. But anyway, I now have the remainder of the blue fiber to spin up, which I weighed my 2 bobbins because, let's see, dropping things. So this is one of them. Like I knew I would have leftovers on these bobbins, and the other one still has leftovers as well. And actually there is a little bit more singles left on this bobbin than the other one, so that makes sense if the yardage was not as long for that one single. But anyway, I'm just going to continue spinning on these 2 bobbins with the rest of the fiber. I weighed the bobbins and they weigh almost identical too, which is odd, but I don't know if the physical bobbins themselves weigh the same. Whatever. I split the fiber I have left in half, and I'm going to do half on one, half on the other. Do a 2-ply there, so that will give me the remainder of the yardage for this particular project. and at some point I will knit something using all 3 skeins. I don't know what that will be yet. I thought it might end up being a sweater. I don't know if I'll have the yardage for a fingering weight sweater, because this is definitely fingering weight yardage. Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. I want to get the spinning part done first. But boy, it took me forever to do all that plying with those fine singles like that. So anyway, I haven't really done any more drop spindling this week. And I did not start socks, as I told you. I was more focused on these other things, the samples and the sweater. So that's been what I've been doing. But I still do want to cast on socks with my hand spun yarn that I talked about. I'd mentioned last week maybe doing monkey socks, but then I started thinking, you know what, why not look through my queue on Ravelry, because I know I do have sock patterns queued. I used to queue them a lot back in the day when I knit patterned socks more than I do now, which I rarely ever do now. But I thought maybe I will see if I have a patterned sock, other than the monkey socks, that might work well with that yarn, and maybe I'll try something different. Since we are doing that's your Q-cal right now, that would be a good fit for that as well. But I haven't had time to look through my queue for a sock pattern, but I'll keep you posted if I come up with one that I want to try. The other thing I mentioned last week about on deck was sewing, and I wanted to do a tunic, at least one tunic that I can wear underneath the Soldotna. And I told you I ordered 3 different patterns. I think I might have told you they were McCall's patterns. Maybe I didn't mention a name. They are not McCall's patterns. They are, 2 of them are New Look, and one of them is See and Sew. I guess that's the brand. Oh, it's a Butterick. Okay, that's Butterick. Oh, and these other 2 are Simplicity. I don't know my sewing pattern names. I should, because they're like the big 4. I guess the sub names I just don't know. But anyway, so here is the one that I like the best, because it's got a bunch of different variations and it's a pretty simple, straightforward tunic. So this is a Simplicity New Look 6086. And I think to begin with, I'm going to make this one. This one is super easy, View D. It's literally, I think, 2 pieces of fabric. It might be 3. Yeah, there's 3, because there's 2 pieces in the back and then 1 in the front. There's no facings. There's nothing. And I think that would be a good place for me to start. I haven't, like I said, I was going to do a muslin, so I think I'll probably start with that. I like this one too, the spaghetti strap one, especially to wear under a sweater, because I run hot. I don't need a lot underneath. I just want something longer underneath than underneath a short sweater. So, but I like that it's got, there's different neckline options, V-neck, scoop neck, or like no neck basically. And you can do different sleeve lengths too. So I think this has a lot of versatility to it. You can use all kinds of different fabrics, like crepey things, silks, chiffon, charmeuse, chalet, I don't know what that's, Georgette, I don't know what a lot of are. Novelty knit fabrics, that makes me happy too, because I really like knit tops. So yeah, we'll see. But that's the one I got that I like the best. I got this one too. This one reminds me more of almost like a nightgown. I don't know why. I could use it to make nightgowns, I guess. But I thought it was cute just as a variation. I don't know that I'll ever do that flutter sleeve thing. So this is New Look 6871. But it's got a wide range of sizes in it too. So that was another thing that drew me to it. But yeah, I like View D on this one, which is actually what the model is wearing. I like that one. And then the last one is the one that's actually closest to what I had in my mind when I was thinking of a type of tunic I might want to wear under this. And it's this one that has these asymmetrical sides. So it's higher in the front and the back, and then you got those sides that come down lower. It's a little fuller than what I had in mind, but I still kind of like that design. So that's this Butterick See and Sew B5203. And you know, yeah, I like both of those, both the sleeveless and the one with the sleeves. Oh, and this also has the pattern for the pants, which just seemed to be a really plain pair of black, well, you can make them any color, but elastic waist pants. And I think they might have pockets. I'm not sure. I can't tell. So anyway, these are 3 patterns, but I think I'm going to start with this one and make this top first. And we'll see where we go from there. I have to go through my fabric and see if, well, I know I have the muslin. I have to see if I have any other fabric that might go well, like to go under that particular sweater. I'd rather not have to buy more fabric because I've got a lot of a fabric stash now. For somebody who doesn't sew very much, yeah, I'd rather not buy more, but we'll see. So that's my on deck stuff. Let's move into some cowl talk. That's your Q cowl is going on, and that's cowl with a K or a C, so you can knit or crochet. That started at the beginning of August. It's running through October 18th, and that is where you are knitting or crocheting anything that was in your Ravelry queue prior to the beginning of August 1st. That's the only prerequisite. It has to have been in your queue prior to that. We've had a lot of talk about how things stay in your queue or not stay in your queue when you start your project. Go ahead, read through that stuff in the first thread of the chatter thread for the cowl. I won't repeat it here because I've talked about it a lot, but you can check it out there. If you have any questions, PM me on Ravelry and I'll be happy to help you out. But we've got prizes. I will draw prizes for this month for the participation thread. In the next episode, I'll probably do 1 or 2 prize winners there. I did do one on Instagram this past week, and that prize is headed to its prize winner. And there's not a lot of people hashtagging this on Instagram. So if you're one of the few, your chances are much better of winning an Instagram-based prize. But if you are on Instagram and you're taking part in the That's Your Q Cow, please use the hashtag when you're posting about it, and that will up your chances of getting a prize as well. So it's the hashtag is That's Your Q KCAL. I will hopefully remember to put it down here on the screen. Let's see, WIPstravaganza, I checked that thread. I did not do prize winners last month. I said I would try to probably do them this month, but honestly there still have not been too many posts, and again, about 1/3 of them are mine. So I'm hereby just going to say I will do a prize drawing for the WIPstravaganza thread at the end of September. So that'll be 3 months, and then I'll plan to do another one at the end of December. So it'll kind of be quarterly at this point. There's not a lot of participation in that, which is not, again, not surprising because, you know, people seem to finish up, you know, long-lasting WIPs earlier in the year, it seems. And these are all things that have to have been WIPs prior to the beginning of 2018. So, you know, maybe you're one of those people who finished those all up and are all on to new projects. My goal for this, because I started this sort of selfishly when I was trying to do my own personal WIPstravaganza and knit down all my WIPs from last year, which I think I had 29 active WIPs from prior to the beginning of this year. I've made such progress. I've finished 13 out of 14 pairs of socks. I finished a blanket. I finished at least 1 shawl, if not 2. I can't remember now. I've finished a lot of things. I don't have a lot left. And the ones that I do have left, I have 2 Afghans that are going to continue to be long-term projects. I will finish the socks that are left, that 1 pair, but they're Christmas socks, so I'm not in a hurry to finish those. I have a pair of mittens that just actually the one needs to be ripped back a little bit, fixed, and then finished. I could do that probably pretty quickly, but again, I'm just not in that place right now. I think there's another shawl or 2, and there's 2 sweaters, neither of which I'm in the mindset of finishing. I just don't even care about them. They may end up getting ripped out, to tell you the truth, the more I think about them. But whatever, I'm really happy with my own WIP progress. And if you are too, then that makes sense that you're not participating in that. But I just want to remind you that it is there and you can participate in it. And I will do drawings, you know, as long as we have people participating. I will continue to do drawings even if they are spaced out a little bit more. Anyway, that's everything for the 90% part. I'll just tell you a real quick 10%. I think actually I already mentioned that I had a road trip on Saturday. Bill and I drove out to Columbus. He had purchased something that we needed to go pick up. I won't bother telling you what it was. Eventually you'll probably hear about it because it does actually have to do with something I'm going to be doing, but it's nowhere near ready for me to tell you any details because I don't even know any details. But anyway, the biggest part about that was the fact that A, I had 8 hours of knitting time in the car, and B, we stopped at a really, really good Mexican restaurant for dinner on our way home. So that was the highlight of that. And then yesterday was Sunday, and we were here during the day, and then we had reservations to go for a tour and dinner at a place called Polymath Park, which I don't know if you would even, unless you're from around here, you might not know anything about Polymath Park. But I'll give you a really quick synopsis. Basically, you've probably heard of Frank Lloyd Wright. He was an architect, and he's very famous for some of his style. I think is probably famous, and he's got houses all over the place. Well, Falling Water is a Frank Lloyd Wright house that is very close to us. It's about a half hour away, I would say. I have weirdly never been there, but it is close by. However, there are other Frank Lloyd Wright houses near us, and there's a place called Polymath Park, which is literally 5 miles from our house. And they have houses that were originally built on that property, not by Frank Lloyd Wright, but by a student of his, who the name is escaping me. I will put a link in the show notes where you can read about Polymath Park and the houses and everything. So originally there were a couple of houses built. They were built as summer homes by a student of Frank Lloyd Wright's. Long story short, over the years, this property went up for sale. This couple bought the property. They already had a more modern home on the property, or like the next parcel over or something. That house that they originally owned is now a restaurant. It's called Treetops Restaurant, and that is where they run the tours out of. But they bought the larger 130 acres of property that had these other two homes on it, and their intent was conservation. So it's basically a private conservation effort to restore and conserve these homes in this style, this Frank Lloyd Wright style, and eventually, you know, be able to have tours and things like that, which I guess they did. And then at some point they had the opportunity to add an actual Frank Lloyd Wright home that was being moved from Indiana. I think it was originally supposed to be moved out to Johnstown, PA. Something happened with that, and it ended up at this property out here near us. So that was Duncan House, which is a Frank Lloyd Wright house, not his student. That's an actual Frank Lloyd Wright. We did not get to see Duncan House last night on this tour. Anyway, then a few years back, another opportunity came up for them to purchase a house that had been built also by Frank Lloyd Wright out in Minnesota that was being sold, and the family wanted it to be able to be preserved. And so it was dismantled, and it was also brought out here. So there's that house there now as well, and it's called Mantalia. Getting the name wrong again, I'll put it in the links. And so that one has just been finished the spring of this year, and they've just opened it up to be toured. So we were among some of the first people who have gotten to tour this. Now I will say we're not like huge Frank Lloyd Wright fanatics or anything, but it's just a very cool thing because he does have these homes local to here. There's also Nob Hill, Kentuck Knob. That's what it's called. And I think that's somehow related to him. I don't know if it was him or a student who built that or designed that or whatever, but that's also not too far away from here. Anyway, So if you're, you know, an architecture buff, you probably know way more about this than what I'm telling you, and you're probably thinking, oh my gosh, Lisa, you're butchering this. But anyway, Bill's sister had bought us a gift certificate for Christmas to either use just at the restaurant, or we could use it and put it towards a tour. And so I had looked into it, and they're only open like the nice months of the year, like they're closed during the winter. So we finally cut around to using it, and we did a dinner tour where they take you to 2 of the homes. One, they give you wine and tell you the story of the homes and everything. And then the second one you go to, which in this case was this brand new one that was just opened not long ago, and you actually get to have your dinner there. And so it was a beautiful night. We were out on the back balcony, and you know, there was 3 sets of us. There was another couple, there was us, and then there was a family, a husband, a wife, and a kid. And so we each had our own tables. The food was phenomenal, and it was just so nice. It was just a very unique experience, and you know, I learned a little bit about architecture and stuff that's right here in our own backyard, basically, that I did not know about. So it was fun. Didn't really take very many pictures, or I would put them in here. We were just sort of enjoying the experience more than anything. So yeah, that was our evening last night. Shop news. Honestly, I don't have a whole lot to tell you. Remember the shawl pins I showed you last week? They aren't up in the shop yet, but they will be by the time this episode goes live. I promise. I don't know what it was about me being able to get things set up to be able to take the pictures I needed to take of those shawl pins last week, but it just was not happening. So many difficulties last week, but I'm going to have them up this week. So the shawl pins will be up in the shop. I am currently dyeing Halloween colorways, both for my upcoming show and to have in the shop. So by the time I record next week, which will hopefully be on Monday again, I will be able to tell you when those colorways will be up in the shop. So hang on for that. And then I will also have an update with a lot of things in it following that show. Because like I said, my next show after that and my last show this year will just be needles up. And I only take self-striping and gradient stuff. Anything that stripes goes with me to needles up. But everything else I will probably be putting into the shop at that point. So stay tuned for that as well. I don't have anything else to tell you. Stay in tune with what's going on with the fibernymphdyeworks on Instagram, on Facebook. I still haven't sent out a newsletter, and I haven't posted anything else in the blog, but I will be. I need to do a newsletter. I wish I could delegate somebody else to do my newsletters for me, because they always end up at the bottom of my to-do list. Anyway, not because I don't want to tell you guys stuff. It's just, you know, time. There's only 24 hours in a day, right? So, all right. I think that's everything for this week. I'm going to go so that I can get this processing, hopefully without difficulties. That was another thing last week why it took me 2 days to get it up. I was having technical difficulties getting my phone to talk to my laptop. Anyway, so I'm going to go. I will talk to you soon. Have a great week.